Thomas Sankara was Pan-Africanist revolutionary alongside the likes of Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba, and he was famously known to have quoted that a soldier without political education is likely to become a criminal in power. And in so doing, Sankara created an army that was not only fixated on defending the country's borders, he created a force that was equally committed to socio-economic transformation. Thomas Sankara rejected huge salary. He rejected ministerial motorcades. In fact, he was remembered to have cycled to his office occasionally. Hello everyone, all the young people out there in Uganda, in East Africa, and Africa at large. I welcome you to The Guiding Flame, Legacies that Inspire Generations, where we talk about different African personalities, their legacies, who they were, and what lessons we can draw from their legacies and their leadership. So today we shall be talking about a special man by the name of Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. Now, who was Thomas Sankara? Thomas Sankara was born in the year 1949 in a small town known as Yako in Upper Volta. He served as the president of Burkina Faso between the year 1983 and 1987. But before that, he served as the Minister of State for Information, and subsequently he was elevated to the prime ministerial position of the Upper Volta state, which would later be renamed Burkina Faso. He also served in the military between the years 1966 and 1987 when he was assassinated, but also remembered to be a Pan-Africanist revolutionary alongside the likes of Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba, among other revolutionaries at the time. He was assassinated in 1987 by a coup engineered by his best friend, Captain Blaise. Looking at his legacy, Thomas Sankara is remembered for many things, and one of those was how he redefined the role of the military in socio-economic development. You see, unlike conventional armies, which are solely meant to defend the country, he believed that the military could be utilized as a force for national development, an approach that he had earlier on learned from Madagascar in his formative years in the military. And beyond the military training, he incorporated civic education in the equation. He incorporated it because he knew that it was civic training that would awaken the conscience of the military to their civic duties as citizens. And he was famously known to have quoted that a soldier without political education is likely to become a criminal in power. And in so doing, Sankara created an army that was not only fixated on defending the country's borders, he created a force that was equally committed to socio-economic transformation. Thomas Sankara was also remembered for his minimalistic living. When he was appointed as the Minister of State for Information, he immediately set himself apart by refusing to be blinded by the trappings of power. Sankara abstained from the privilege and the extravagance that had become synonymous with public office at the time. Thomas Sankara rejected huge salaries. He rejected ministerial motorcades. In fact, he was remembered to have cycled to his office occasionally. So he chose this minimalistic lifestyle, one that would later characterize his administration when he ascended to presidency. And in fact, when he ascended to presidency, he began by ordering the sale of all expensive government property, including selling his own fleet of Mercedes-Benz vehicles, which were replaced by the cheapest vehicle that was being sold at the time in Burkina Faso. And he ended up standardizing that for all the ministries and agencies, in addition to dramatically slashing the emoluments and the salaries of public servants. And as if that was not enough, Thomas Sankara refused ministers from purchasing first-class plane tickets. He even went ahead to ban air conditioning in government offices. To Thomas Sankara, these were trappings of elitisms that were inimical to the already struggling economy of Burkina Faso. That was the kind of man Sankara was. He is also remembered as a Pan-Africanist revolutionary, and he vehemently preached against imperialism, the one that took the form of neocolonialism, which was being perpetrated by France. He presided over the renaming of the Upper Volta state to Burkina Faso, which meant the land of the upright people. He also believed in the capacity of Burkina Faso and by extension Africa to become self-sufficient economy. He refused to take loans from the Western hegemons like France and other countries and institutions like the World Bank, like the IMF. And he also believed in the notion that the African market belonged to the African people. He was also famously quoted to have said in Addis Ababa that Africa must produce what it needs and it must consume what it produces, because it was the only way that we would live in freedom and dignity. What are some of the lessons that we can learn from Thomas Sankara's legacy as a revolutionary, as a leader who espoused the values of integrity, values of minimalistic living? We are able to pick from Thomas Sankara, especially through his minimalistic living, that leadership is never at any one point meant to be about accumulating titles and wealth at the expense of the masses. It teaches us that leadership is solely about serving people and transforming their lives before you think about transforming yourself. And by doing so, when we embrace this kind of lifestyle, we are able to avoid the trappings of power that have come to destroy and ruin governments in our present day and age. The other thing that we can learn from Thomas Sankara as a leader is to always never lose touch with the people. Thomas Sankara was famously known for his incessant visits to the communities across Burkina Faso. And the visits were not a matter of political grandstanding, as has become the case today. Thomas Sankara visited these communities to create a genuine connection with the people and stay in touch with the people's reality, and to also be in position to empathize with the people. So we must, as leaders, never lose sight of the people that have given us their permission, they have given us their trust to lead them. We should always be mindful that without the people, then we cease to be leaders. We also learn from Thomas Sankara to always defend the rights of minorities. During his reign, he is remembered to be one that was very vocal about issues pertaining to women, issues related to women's freedoms. He advocated for the incorporation of women in government parastatals, and he appointed about 4 or 5 women in his cabinet to portray a new image in the Burkina Faso society that women were also as capable as men. So it teaches us to always look out for those marginalized groups and always remember that we must remain the voices of those who have felt marginalized and sidelined. For then, if we do not do that, then it all becomes vanity. So we must recognize among the lessons that we learned from Sankara that we should be cautious about our friends. And in fact, Thomas Sankara was betrayed by his best friend, Captain Blaise, with whom they had walked the revolutionary journey for a couple of years. One that was closest to him is one that betrayed him. And he was quoted in an interview when he said that, "I did not expect my best friend to be the one to betray me. And I know if he staged a military coup, I will not be able to survive it because he knows all my weak points. He knows how to hurt me, and that is one thing that I cannot survive." So you may be in position to strategize and be able to quell or suppress your enemies, you might not have the same opportunity when it comes to your friends. So Thomas Sankara's lesson serves as a cautionary tale about what happens when we fail to separate friendship from leadership. We also are able to learn from Sankara's lesson to be uncompromising on our values, provided these are positive values. Values such as integrity, values such as honesty, values such as minimalistic living. And if we have been corrected by those around us, we must recognize the importance of being flexible, because like Thomas Sankara, he was uncompromising on his values, but he was flexible enough to recognize when he would be required to compromise on his position for the greater good. Let us, as the young generation all over Africa, be reminded that we must continuously draw from the lessons through the illustrious legacies of great men like Thomas Sankara to transform our communities, to transform our societies where we hail from. And at the end of the day, we should never lose sight of why we are elected as leaders or given the platform to serve the majority. It is for the express purpose of serving and not enriching ourselves. I thank you very much for listening. This has been Thomas Sankara, the guiding flame, legacies that inspire generation. Whom do you want us to talk about next? Please comment in the comment section. See you next time. Bye-bye.